How my cheating wife used our daughters to cover her betrayal. My name's Mark, and I'm 39 years old. For the past 20 years, I have been happily married to Sarah. We have two daughters, Emma, who is 19, and Lily, who is 18. From the outside, our family looks perfect. We have a nice house in a good neighborhood, and we share meals together almost every night. I work as an engineer, and Sarah is a nurse. We always support each other, or at least I thought we did. Every morning is a rush in our house. The girls get ready for school, and Sarah is usually busy making breakfast. Emma is the responsible one. She often helps Lily remember her school things. Lily, on the other hand, is more carefree. She tends to forget her homework or where she left her shoes. Watching them interact fills me with pride. Their bond reminds me of how Sarah and I were when we first met. Lately, though, something feels off. It started with small things, little lies here and there. I noticed that Sarah has been coming home late from work more often. She says it's because of extra shifts at the hospital, but there's a tone in her voice that makes me worry. It feels like she's hiding something. One evening, during dinner, I tried to keep the mood light. "So how was your day, Sarah?" I asked, looking at her. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Busy as usual," she replied, pushing her food around on her plate. I could see she wasn't really present at the table. Emma and Lily exchanged glances and whispered to each other. I felt a surge of irritation. "What's going on, girls?" I asked, my tone casual but firm. "Nothing, Dad. Just some girl talk," Emma said quickly, avoiding my gaze. I wanted to press them further, but I held back, hoping it was just typical teenage behavior. After dinner, while I washed the dishes, I caught Sarah looking at her phone. She seemed so absorbed in whatever was on the screen. I felt an urge to know what was going on, but I reminded myself that everyone deserves privacy, even spouses. That weekend, we went to see the girls perform in a school concert. They looked so happy on stage, singing their hearts out. I felt a wave of pride as I watched them. After the performance, I turned to Sarah, who was still distracted by her phone. "Didn't they do great?" I asked, grinning at her. She nodded but seemed distant. "Yeah, they were wonderful," she said, not really looking at me. I felt a flicker of annoyance. "Is everything okay?" I asked, trying to sound concerned rather than upset. "Just tired, Mark. You know how it is," she replied, finally glancing up. But her smile didn't match the warmth in her words. That night, as we lay in bed, I decided to address my worries. "Sarah, are you sure everything is fine?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She turned to face me, her expression unreadable. "Of course, everything's fine, just work stress," she replied. I wanted to believe her, but doubt lingered in my mind like a cloud. A few days later, I noticed Sarah's phone buzzing more often. She would pick it up and leave the room, always with a hurried expression. It bothered me, but I tried to push it aside. I told myself it was probably just work-related. One evening, as I walked into the living room, I saw Sarah and the girls huddled together, whispering. When they noticed me, they fell silent. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. They exchanged uneasy glances, and my heart sank. "Nothing, Dad. Just planning something for you," Lily said, her eyes wide with excitement. I smiled, feeling warmth but also an underlying concern. What were they really hiding? As the weeks passed, I tried to focus on my work and the girls, but my worries didn't go away. Sarah seemed more distant, and I felt like a stranger in my own home. I wanted to reach out and ask what was wrong, but I feared the answers I might get. One night, I overheard the girls again. They were talking in the kitchen, their voices low and hurried. When I entered, they quickly stopped talking, and I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. "What's happening?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Nothing important, Dad, just school stuff," Emma replied, but I could see the tension in her eyes. I felt a wave of frustration. My family, which once felt so secure and loving, now seemed filled with secrets. That week, I decided to confront Sarah again. "We need to talk," I said firmly, looking into her eyes. She hesitated, and I could see the fear there. "Mark, I'm just busy. Please don't overthink this," she said, her voice shaky, but something about her tone didn't reassure me. The next few days were filled with uncertainty. I felt lost, as if our once perfect family was unraveling. Every laugh felt forced, and every conversation felt shallow. I wanted to hold on to the happiness we once shared, but the shadow of doubt loomed over us. As I lay in bed at night, I couldn't help but wonder, what was happening to my family? Why did it feel like everything was slipping away? I hoped that whatever secrets lay beneath the surface would soon come to light, because I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. Days turned into weeks, and the tension in our home grew thicker. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Every time I entered a room, I felt like I was walking into a secret. Sarah and the girls would often lower their voices and stop talking when I approached. It was unsettling, and I started to wonder what they were hiding. One afternoon, I came home early from work. The house was quiet, which felt unusual. I walked into the living room and found Sarah sitting on the couch, her phone in her hand. The moment she saw me, she quickly put it down and forced a smile. "Hey Mark, you're home early." "Yeah, I decided to leave the office a bit sooner," I replied, trying to sound casual. But the way she avoided my eyes made me uneasy. "Where are the girls?" I asked, glancing around. "They're upstairs, probably studying," she said, brushing her hair back. "They have some big tests coming up." I nodded, but I felt a knot forming in my stomach. I decided to go check on them. As I climbed the stairs, I heard whispers coming from Emma's room. I paused outside the door, listening. "What if Dad finds out?" I heard Lily say, her voice low and worried. "It'll be fine. Just stick to the plan," Emma replied, sounding more confident. I felt my heart race. What plan? I took a deep breath and knocked lightly on the door. "Hey girls, can I come in?" There was a brief silence before Emma called out, "Sure, Dad." I opened the door and found them sitting on the bed, books scattered around. They both looked up at me, their faces brightening with forced smiles. "Hi, Dad," Emma said cheerfully, but there was something in her eyes that seemed off. "Just checking in. How's the studying going?" I asked, trying to sound relaxed. "It's going well," Lily chimed in, her voice a bit too high-pitched. I noticed that they both seemed a little too eager to reassure me. "Good to hear," I replied, feeling a mixture of concern and confusion. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine," Emma said, her words rushing out. "Just school stuff, you know?" I wanted to press further, but I could see the nervousness in their eyes. I decided not to push it for now. "Okay, I'll leave you to it," I said, stepping back. As I closed the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just missed something important. Later that evening, we gathered around the dinner table. The food was delicious, but the atmosphere felt heavy. I glanced at Sarah, who was quietly picking at her meal. Emma and Lily exchanged furtive glances, whispering to each other when they thought I wasn't watching. "Is there something going on that I should know about?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "Nothing, Dad. We're just talking about school," Lily said quickly. "Right," I replied, skepticism creeping into my voice. "You've been saying that a lot lately." Sarah looked at me, her expression tight. "Mark, the girls are just stressed with their studies. It's normal for them to lean on each other right now," she said, attempting to calm me down. I nodded, but doubt lingered. After dinner, I helped with the dishes while Sarah went to check on the girls. I could hear their quiet voices through the door again, and the knot in my stomach tightened. When Sarah returned, I decided to address my concerns once more. "Sarah, I can't shake the feeling that something is off. The girls are acting strange, and you seem distant too. Is everything really okay?" She sighed, her eyes clouding with frustration. "I told you, Mark, it's just stress. They have a lot on their plates right now. Just give them some space." I wanted to argue, to express how unsettled I felt, but I held back. Maybe I was just overreacting. But the more I tried to convince myself of that, the more uneasy I became. The next few days passed in a blur. I continued to notice Sarah sneaking out to take calls in private. I tried to dismiss it, telling myself it was probably work-related. But one night, after dinner, I saw her quickly lock her phone and hide it when I walked into the room. "Who were you talking to?" I asked, unable to contain my curiosity. "Just a colleague, nothing important," she replied, her tone defensive. I felt a rush of frustration. "It just feels like you're hiding something from me," I said, my voice rising. "I'm not hiding anything, Mark." "Why do you always think the worst?" she shot back, her eyes flashing with anger. I stepped back, surprised by her reaction. "I just want to know what's going on. I feel like I'm losing my family," I said, my voice softening. She sighed, looking away. "It's not like that. I promise, everything is fine," she insisted, but I could see the cracks in her facade. That weekend, I decided to keep a closer eye on them. I wanted to find out what was really going on. As the girls went out with Sarah for a shopping trip, I stayed back, pretending to clean up the house. When they returned, I noticed that they seemed unusually giddy, sharing secrets and laughter that felt forced. I forced a smile, but inside I was a storm of confusion and doubt. "Did you have fun?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, Dad, we found some great stuff," Emma replied, her eyes sparkling. I watched as they walked upstairs, whispering again. I felt the familiar knot in my stomach tighten. What was going on that I didn't know about? That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't help but feel the weight of the shadows closing in around me. The sense of deceit hung in the air like a thick fog, and I knew that if I didn't uncover the truth soon, it might consume everything I held dear. I resolved to get to the bottom of it, no matter what it took. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The whispers, the secrets, and the distance between us all felt unbearable. I needed answers. As I listened to the sound of water running in the bathroom, an impulsive thought crossed my mind. In a moment of desperation, I got out of bed and quietly walked toward the bathroom door. The sound of Sarah's voice reached me as she sang softly, blissfully unaware of my turmoil. I took a deep breath and made my way to her phone, which was lying on the nightstand. I hesitated for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest, but I felt as if I had no other choice. If Sarah was hiding something, I had to find out what it was. I quickly grabbed her phone and slipped it into my pocket, feeling a mix of guilt and determination. After a few minutes, Sarah emerged from the bathroom, her hair wrapped in a towel. She looked surprised to see me standing there. "What are you doing up?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Just thinking," I replied, trying to sound casual. I turned away from her, my heart racing. I knew I had to act quickly. I hurried to our bedroom and sat down on the edge of the bed, pulling out her phone. I unlocked it with the code I had memorized and began scrolling through her messages. My heart sank as I found texts from a man I didn't recognize. The messages were flirty, filled with inside jokes and heart emojis. I felt a rush of anger and betrayal wash over me. "Hey, gorgeous. Can't wait to see you again. Let's meet soon," one message read. My stomach twisted. I continued scrolling and stumbled upon more messages, plans for secret meetings and words of affection that should never have been directed at anyone but me. Each message felt like a dagger to my heart. Then I found a group chat that included Emma and Lily. My breath caught in my throat. I opened it and read their conversations, filled with concern and guilt about keeping secrets from me. They talked about how they were worried about their mom and how they thought it was better to stay silent. I couldn't believe it. My daughters knew about this. They were part of the lies, helping their mother hide the truth from me. I felt like the ground had been pulled from under me. I didn't know how to process all of this. Before I knew it, Sarah was standing in the doorway, her eyes widening as she saw me with her phone. "What are you doing?" she demanded, her voice sharp. I stood up, my heart racing. "I found your messages, Sarah. I can't believe you've been cheating on me," I shouted, anger boiling inside me. Her face turned pale. "Mark, I can explain," she pleaded, stepping forward. "Explain what? How you've been lying to me? How you've betrayed our family?" I yelled, my voice echoing in the room. "And the girls, they knew. They helped you hide this from me. Please, just listen," she cried, tears forming in her eyes. "It's not what you think. Not what I think. You're texting another man. How can it not be what I think?" I roared, my frustration spilling over. "It was a mistake. I never meant for it to go this far," she said, her voice trembling. "I was lonely, Mark. You've been so distant, and I felt like I was living alone in this house. I felt a mix of anger and hurt. So you decided to find comfort in someone else? You think that makes it okay?" I shouted. "You're a liar and a fraud. I can't believe I ever trusted you." "Don't say that," she yelled back, her own anger rising. "You think you're perfect. You've been so focused on work that you've neglected me. I needed someone to talk to." "I can't believe you're blaming me for this," I shot back. "You could have talked to me. We could have worked through it, but instead, you chose to sneak around behind my back." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she shook her head. "I know I messed up, but it didn't mean anything. It was just a moment of weakness." "A moment of weakness?" I laughed bitterly. You've been meeting him, Sarah. How many times did you lie to my face? How many times did you pretend everything was fine? Mark, please, I'm sorry, she pleaded, stepping closer to me. Sorry doesn't cut it. You've destroyed everything, I shouted, my voice hoarse with emotion. You call yourself a mother, and you put our daughters through this? You let them keep your secret? I didn't want to hurt them, she cried, her voice breaking. I thought I could fix it without them knowing. You thought you could fix this? By cheating? By lying? You are a disgrace, I roared, the anger spilling out of me. You've betrayed our family in the worst way possible. The silence that followed felt heavy and suffocating. I could see the shock in her eyes, the realization of what she had done sinking in. Mark? I don't know what to say, she whispered, her voice trembling. Say whatever you want, I replied coldly. But nothing you say can fix this. You've ruined our family. I turned away from her, my chest heaving with emotion. I couldn't bear to look at her any longer. All I could think about was the life we built together, the trust, the love, and how easily it all fell apart. In that moment, I felt a mix of anger, pain, and betrayal. I had loved her, trusted her, and now it all felt like a cruel joke. The realization that I had been living with a stranger in my own home hit me hard. I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. As I walked out of the room, I could hear her crying behind me, but I felt numb. I couldn't process the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. I needed to get away, to breathe, to think. But as I stepped outside, I knew deep down that our world had shattered, and there was no going back. I stepped outside, the cool night air hitting my face like a splash of cold water. I walked aimlessly down the street, my mind racing. I couldn't believe what had just happened. My heart felt heavy with betrayal and anger, and I needed to escape from it all. As I walked, I replayed the argument in my mind. Sarah's tears, her desperate pleas for forgiveness, and the realization that my daughters had kept her secret from me, filled me with a deep sense of betrayal. I didn't know where to go or what to do. I just kept walking, the weight of my emotions dragging me down. After an hour of wandering, I returned home, feeling exhausted. As I opened the door, I was met with the sight of Emma and Lily sitting on the couch, their faces pale with worry. They had clearly been waiting for me. Dad, Lily called out, her voice trembling. We need to talk. Talk about what? I snapped, my anger flaring again. I didn't want to hear any more excuses or justifications. Please, just listen to us, Emma pleaded, standing up. We didn't mean for any of this to happen. Didn't mean for it to happen? I echoed, my voice rising. You knew. You both knew what your mother was doing, and you let me live in a lie. How could you? It's not that simple, Emma cried, her eyes filled with tears. We were trying to protect you. Protect me? By keeping secrets? By lying to my face? I shouted, pacing the room. You have no idea how much that hurts. You let me trust you, and now I feel like a fool. Dad, we didn't want to hurt you. Mom was so upset, and we thought if we just stayed quiet it would all blow over, Lily said, her voice shaking. Blow over? I repeated incredulously. This is not something that just blows over. Your mother cheated on me, and you helped her hide it. How could you betray me like this? It wasn't just about you, Emma yelled back, her frustration spilling over. It was about Mom, too. She was struggling, and we thought we could help her. Help her? By lying? By letting her destroy our family? I shouted, the pain in my chest growing heavier. You have no idea what you've done to us. We thought we could fix it. Lily cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. We didn't want to see you hurt, Dad. We thought it would be easier if we didn't say anything. Easier? I laughed bitterly, the sound harsh in the quiet room. You think keeping the truth from me was easier? You've shattered my trust in you both. How can I ever believe anything you say again? Emma stepped closer, desperation in her eyes. Dad, please, we're still your daughters. We love you. We never wanted any of this. Love? This doesn't feel like love, I said, my voice low but filled with anger. You think love means keeping secrets? Love means honesty. You've betrayed me in the worst way, just like your mother. Lily stepped forward, her expression pleading. We're not Mom, Dad. We didn't do anything wrong. We were just trying to protect you. Protect me? I snapped, feeling a surge of rage. You think hiding the truth from me is protecting me? You've been just as dishonest as she has. I don't even know who you are anymore. Silence fell over the room, heavy and suffocating. I could see the hurt in their eyes, but I was too consumed by my own pain to care. I had trusted them both completely, and now I felt like everything I believed in had crumbled. "Maybe I should just cut ties with you both too," I said, my voice cold and hard. "If you want to be like your mother, then maybe I don't need you in my life." "Dad, no, please don't say that," Emma cried, her voice breaking. "We're your daughters. We can work through this." "Work through it?" I said, shaking my head. "What's there to work through? You've been lying to me for months. I can't have that kind of dishonesty in my life. We can fix this together," Lily begged, stepping closer. "We'll talk to Mom. We can all go to therapy or something. Please don't shut us out." I looked at them, my heart aching, but the anger still burned inside me. "I don't want to hear anything more from either of you," I said firmly. "You made your choice when you decided to keep her secrets. I can't trust you anymore." The hurt on their faces was unbearable, but I felt trapped in my own anger and pain. I had never wanted to hurt them, but I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. I turned away from them, unable to face the tears and the confusion I had caused. As I walked toward the door, I could hear Emma sobbing quietly and Lily whispering to her, trying to comfort her. I felt a pang of guilt, but I buried it deep inside. "I need space. I can't deal with any of this right now," I said, my voice flat. "Dad, please don't go," they cried together, their voices pleading. But I couldn't stay. I felt suffocated by the weight of their pain and my own. "I need to figure out what to do," I said, forcing myself to leave. "I can't be around any of you right now." I stepped out into the night, closing the door behind me. The cool air hit me again, but it did nothing to cool the fire inside. I walked away from the house that had once felt like a home, knowing that I was leaving behind a family I had loved deeply but felt utterly betrayed by. As I walked, I felt a mixture of sadness and determination. I had to cut ties, at least for now. I couldn't bear to look at them or Sarah again. The pain was too raw, too deep. I knew it would take time to heal, but for now, I needed to be alone, far away from the shadows of deceit that had clouded my life. Moving to a new city felt like a leap into the unknown. I packed my things, leaving behind the memories that haunted me in that house. The walls still echoed with laughter and love, but now they felt like a prison of betrayal. I needed a fresh start, far from the shadows that clung to my past. I found a small apartment in a quiet town about 2 hours away. It was simple but cozy, with a view of rolling hills and open fields. The air felt different here, cleaner and full of possibility. I took a deep breath, letting the newness wash over me. Starting over wasn't easy. The first few weeks were tough. I buried myself in work, taking on extra hours at my new job. I was determined to throw myself into my tasks and distract myself from the pain. I found a small company that specialized in landscaping, which felt like a perfect fit. I loved being outdoors, working with my hands, and transforming dull spaces into something beautiful. As I settled into my routine, I began to explore the town. One evening, I stumbled upon a local motorcycle club meeting at a diner. The sound of laughter and the smell of fried food drew me in. I hesitated at first, unsure if I belonged there, but something inside me pushed me to enter. "Hey there. You look like you could use a seat," a friendly voice called out as I stepped through the door. A burly man with a thick beard waved me over to their table. I smiled and walked over, feeling the warmth of acceptance wash over me. "Name's Jake," he said, extending his hand. "Welcome to the Windriders." I introduced myself, and soon I found myself surrounded by a group of welcoming faces. They were passionate about riding and exploring the open road, sharing stories of their adventures. Their laughter was contagious, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a spark of joy. Over the next few weeks, I became a part of the club. We rode together on weekends, exploring the beautiful countryside. The freedom of the open roads soothed my soul. Each mile I rode helped me forget the pain of the past, if only for a little while. The wind in my hair and the sound of the engine revving felt like a new beginning. I also started to make friends outside the club. A few of us would gather after rides for barbecues and bonfires. They shared their lives with me, and I began to share pieces of mine, carefully leaving out the painful details of my recent past. I felt lighter in their company, as if the burdens I carried were slowly lifting. One evening, As we sat around a fire, Jake turned to me and asked, "What brought you to this town?" I hesitated, weighing my words carefully. I needed a change. Life was complicated where I came from, I finally said, my voice steady but tinged with sadness. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "We all have our battles, my friend. Just know you're not alone here." Those words resonated with me deeply. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of belonging. I started to embrace the healing process, allowing myself to let go of the anger and pain that had consumed me. One Saturday morning, the club planned a long ride to a scenic overlook about 2 hours away. The sky was bright blue, and the weather was perfect. I felt excited as I mounted my bike, the engine rumbling beneath me. As we rode, the sun warmed my skin, and I let myself be present in the moment, the worries of the past fading into the distance. When we reached the overlook, the view took my breath away. The vast landscape stretched out before us, a patchwork of green fields and shimmering lakes. I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. This was my new life, filled with possibilities and hope. As we gathered at the edge, sharing snacks and stories, I realized how far I had come. The laughter around me felt healing, and I finally began to believe that I could find joy again. The past would always be a part of me, but it didn't have to define my future. That evening, as the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the landscape, I felt a sense of peace. I took a deep breath, letting the moment sink in. The clubmates chatted animatedly, and I felt grateful for their friendship. Over the next few months, I continued to embrace my new life. I explored the nearby towns, tried new foods, and even joined a local gym to stay active. Each small step helped me move further away from the pain of my past. Yet there were moments when memories would creep in, flashes of my old life with Sarah and the girls. I would catch myself thinking about them, wondering how they were doing. But I learned to acknowledge those feelings without letting them consume me. I was rebuilding my life, and that was enough for now. One afternoon, as I was riding through the countryside, I noticed a small diner by the roadside. I pulled in, feeling adventurous. As I entered, I was greeted by the smell of fresh coffee and homemade pie. I found a seat by the window and ordered a slice of apple pie, a nostalgic reminder of happier days. As I sat there savoring the pie, I realized that I was beginning to feel whole again. I had found new friendships, a sense of community, and a passion for writing that gave me purpose. My heart still ached for what I had lost, but I was learning to focus on what lay ahead. I had started to dream again. Dreams of traveling across the country, exploring new places, and maybe even finding love once more. It felt good to think about the future instead of being weighed down by the past. I knew that healing would take time, but for the first time, I felt hopeful. With each passing day, I was transforming my pain into strength. I was learning to let go and embrace the possibilities that life had to offer. I was ready to ride into the future, leaving the shadows behind and welcoming the light ahead. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next video. See you next time.